Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Wanda Hanifa. I'm from Group 6 from Chemistry B 2021, Jakarta State University. So, in this video, our group will explain why we are against the topic this time, namely transgenic animals, in subject bioscience with lecturing Professor Muktiningsih Nurjayadi. But before we start it, let me introduce myself and my group mates. There is Fathir Azzaki Iradata, Sheila Nurul Fadillah, and me Wanda Hanifa. And for the contents or the table of contents, there is introductions and the mechanism about transgenic animals, fact about transgenic animals, arguments um, why we are against about transgenic animals, and for the last we have a conclusions about why we against these transgenic animals. Now let's get started. So about transgenic animal, I want to introduction about recommended DNA or genetic engineering. It's a collection of experimental techniques that enable research to isolate, identify, and reproduce fragments of genetic material or DNA in the pure forms. Genetic engineering is basically is a set of techniques that use to manipulate component genetic uh, like genomic DNA or genes that can be done in one cell or create living organisms, even from one living thing to another living thing different kind. Genetic engineering too is the basis of biotechnology, which includes manipulation genes, gene cloning, recombinant DNA technology, genetic modifications, and modern genetic with using identification, replications, modifications, and transfer of genetic material from cell, tissues, or even organs. And now, introduction about what is transgenic animals. Transgenic animals are animals that have had foreign genes internationally introduced into their genomes using genetic engineering techniques. These foreign genes can come from the same species or from different species. The introduction of these genes can be used to alter specific traits of the animal, such as improving its growth rates, increasing its resistance to disease, or even creating its model for studying human disease. Uh, Transgenic animals too are created by introducing foreign DNA into the nucleus of a fertilized egg or into embryonic stem cells. And transgenic animals too have been used extensively in research to study genes functions, disease mechanism, and drug development. They have also been used in agriculture to create animals with desirable traits such as increased milk production or even leaner meats. However, the use of transgenic animals has also raised ethical concerns, particularly regarding the welfare of the animals and the potential risks to the environment or even human health. Now, we next to mechanism or making transgenic animal. Okay, so from the pictures, we can easily know about the mechanism of transgenic animal is have three principal methods used for creation deaths. Uh, there is there is microinjection or pronuclear injections. The second or B has embryonic stem cells mediates gene transfer, and for the lastly we have a nuclear transfer. Okay, so this is explained from the embryonic stem cell mediated gene transfer. We have we can see from the pictures it has identifications. A gene that codes for desirable traits or protein must first be identified. Research may identify desirable traits in other species and try to identify the genes responsible. There are several techniques that can be used to identify the genes sequence that codes for the specific protein or trait of interest. The second, we have isolations. The second step, we have isolations. The target genes must then be isolated. The environment Hi, I'm Sheila, and now we move into one of our reference why we got contra about this statement about transgenic animals. This journal talk about public policy and transgenic animals, case by case assessment as a moral learning process. In this journal, they say three arguments that focus on first, in animal biotechnology, animals are used merely as things, and the second one is animal biotechnology is playing God, and the third is animal biotechnology is unnatural. We hold the conviction that these arguments show important moral questions raised by animal biotechnology without being conclusive for the question whether animal biotechnology should be considered acceptable. So these three arguments that I mentioned last slide, and in animal biotechnology, animals are used merely as things, and animal biotechnology is playing God, and animal biotechnology is unnatural. So, what is these three arguments? The first one is animal used as things. It might be possible to improve on the welfare situation of animals by modifying them in such a way that some ethological needs are no longer present in their genetic makeup. The use of animal merely as things, people see genetic modification as another step in the direction of the reduction of animals to mere instruments for human goals. Animals are used as things and not as fellow creatures. That's so sad. But this would reduce them to things that are better adapted to the wants of humans, such as the demand for cheap eggs. So the notion of intrinsic value is not wholly captured by welfare's consideration. And the second argument is animal biotechnology is playing God. In this argument, God is not used as a proper name for a supreme being, but as a functional name. This describes function like omnipotence, creation, and redemption. Playing in this argument means acting as if the impact of the uneasiness brought forward by the playing God argument is the feeling that by biotechnology mankind takes the role as if humans were omnipotent creators. In this context, we want to mention about Hans Jonas. Do you know about Hans Jonas? Central in his thinking is the principle of responsibility. Hans Jonas says that since we have the power to destroy everything, we therefore have the obligation to know the consequence of our actions. He argues that we not only have the responsibility for what we know, but also for what we should know. Jonas 1979. And the third argument is animal biotechnology is unnatural. This is also a problematic argument. It seems to presuppose a natural order. It might be possible to improve on the welfare situation of animals by modifying them in such a way that some ethological needs are no longer present in their genetic makeup. This order seems sacrosanct, and we are not allowed to change it. In public discussion, it is often stated that this kind of order does not exist. All technical invention change the natural given order. That is the essence of being a human being. It is also said that biotechnology is itself a natural technology in contrast with chemical technology that is associated with pollution. Biotechnology has, for instance, metaphorically, but not ironically, been called the lover of Mother Nature. So this is what we highlight on this journal,
Animals are not simply nature, but they are fellow sentient beings too. Animal biotechnology stresses the problems our culture has with concepts like wilderness, nature, and culture. So, why is genetic engineering is bad or why is transgenic animals is bad? We got four arguments that we write down here. The first one is genetic engineering often involves the sacrifice of some animals and surgical procedures. In genetic engineering in animals, there are not one or two animals that feel in pain, but there are so many animals that feels discomfort and even death. The second one is there is evidence of public concerns that go beyond the three Rs and animal welfare. What is the three Rs? The principles of the three Rs is the first one is reduction of animal numbers, and the second one is refinement of practice and husbandry to minimize pain and distress, and the third one is replacement of animals with non-animal alternatives wherever possible. But, however, despite the steps taken to minimize pain and distress, there is evidence of public concerns that go beyond the three Rs and animal welfare regarding the creation and use of genetically engineered animals. The third one is the transfer of genetic material from one species to another raises potentially serious health issues for animals and even humans. And the cost to the animal always outweighs the benefits as. By carrying out genetic engineering, we are violating their rights. And the fourth one is we don't yet know if eating the products of genetically modified animals could potentially harm us. Genetic engineering often involves modifying animals for reasons that have no benefit for this species. And of course, the genetic engineering is for human, not for that species, and could potentially cause them pain and discomfort. So, transgenic animal is very dangerous for animals, but there are just good for human, but there are not good for animals. So, why we got contra about this statement?
Okay, now is how bad is transgenic animal in general? The transfer of genetic material from one species to another species is raises potentially serious health issues for animals and humans. There is a risk that new diseases from genetically engineered animals could be spread to non-genetically engineered animals or even humans. And now is transgenic animals raise a particularly difficult problems. There is four problems is human problems, animal rights, animal welfare, and regulating genetic engineering. First, human problems. Genetically engineered animals are usually concerned about the dangers these animals may pose to human beings, usually to human health, rather than any implication for the animal themselves. Second, animal rights. Genetic engineering and selective breeding appear to violate animal rights because they involve manipulating animals for human ends as if the animals were nothing more than human property. Rather than treating the animals as being of value in themselves, recent actions to allow animals to be patents reinforce the idea of animals as human property rather than being in their own rights. Third, animal warfare. Biotechnology can be good for animals. Selective inbreeding and genetic engineering can be benefits animals in many ways. Example, improving resistance to disease, breeding to remove characteristics that cause injury. But biotechnology too can be bad for animals. The good effects for the breeder can offset by painful side effect for animals. Example: modern pig have bred have been bred to grow extra fast. Some now grow too fast for their herds, causing discomfort when animals are too active. And broiler chickens are bred to go fast. Some now grow too fast for the legs. And this is less regulating and genetic engineering profitability. Profitability is one of the major drivers of both selective breeding and genetic engineering. If animal welfare is not to be compromised, research must be restricted by a counterbalancing ethical principle that prevents altering animals in a way that was bad for the animals. And now next, who is against transgenic animals? Some groups that oppose the use of transgenic animals include animal rights groups and environmental groups. They are concerned about the possible negative impact on human health and the environment from the use of transgenic animals. Animal rights groups also oppose practices such as the insertions insertions of human genes into animals because it undermines the dignity and human rights of the animals. Some activist groups have also criticized the use of transgenic animals in research and testing of drugs and vaccines, claiming that more ethical and more effective non-animal alternatives are available. And for the next was my friends will be continuing it.
The next is transgenic animal in Indonesia. Transgenic animals in Indonesia are in the early stage and strictly limited by the regulations. The regulations of transgenic animals in Indonesia is managed by the National Agency of Drug and Food Control and the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. The regulations on transgenic animals in Indonesia include provisions for risk assessment, labeling, monitoring, and reporting. For example, under the current regulations, any animal that has been genetically modified must undergo a rigorous risk assessment to determine its potential impacts on human health and the environment before it can be approved for release or commercial use. These are government regulations in Indonesia number 95 of 2012 about concerning veterinary public health and animal welfare. In the Articles 92, it is stated: A. It is forbidden to use and utilize animals beyond nature capabilities that may impact the health, safety, or cause the death of animals. B. It is forbidden to provide materials, boosters, or stimulants of animal working organ functions beyond normal physiological limits that can harm the health, safety, or cause the death of animals. And C. It is forbidden to applying modern biotechnology to produce transgenic animals or animal products that are harmful for animal research, conservation, public safety and community peace, and the preservation of the environment. And D, it is forbidden to utilize animals' physical force beyond its means. And the last is E, it is forbidden to use of body parts of or animals' organs for purposes other than medical. While there are regulations in place for transgenic animal in Indonesia, the implementations and enforcement of these regulations may vary and may face challenge. Therefore, it is essential to continuously review and strengthen regulatory frameworks and monitor the development and use of transgenic animals to ensure that they are safe, effective, and sustainable. And these are the examples of a journal research about risk evaluations of using transgenic fish for cultivations. In this journal, it is explained if transgenic aquatic animals escape from farm or laboratory, they might disturb the natural balance of nature and disrupt the ecosystems. And if transgenic organisms mate with non-transgenic organisms, the offspring could have less viability and male fertility, and consequently, the populations of this species might decrease. In this journal, there is a Trojan gene effect modeling that estimates if there are 60 transgenic fish that combine it in 60,000 non-transgenic fish in the wild, then the populations will experience the extinctions in the 14th generations. In conclusions, while there are potential benefits to creating transgenic animals, there are also significant concerns to consider. It is important to carefully weigh the potential risks and benefits before pursuing the creation and use of transgenic animals, and to prioritize the welfare of both animals and the environment in the decision-making process. These are our references. That's all from the group 6. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.